What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another post game here on METS Central. We actually have kind of a live reaction because I'm still waiting for the final out to be recorded, of course. But the Mets just absolutely destroyed the Phillies to open up this 3-game series. And all I could sit here and say, barring some unexpected miracle, of course, where the Phillies come back, but all I could say, great start. Show me more. Show me more. Because if you find a way to annihilate them, I mean, you did tonight. If you find a way to keep this going, then, like I've said for a bit now, that's the only thing at this rate that could probably rope me in the slightest with this team. Before we talk about everything that happened, leave a like on your way into the show here. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel, especially for Met fans, and turn on your notifications so you know when we upload or go live here on Met Central. One more strike to go until the game is potentially over here. Like I said, watching this one live, so sorry to anyone that's on replay watching this one. But in all honesty, and if you guys listen to the podcast earlier, you would know, in all honesty, who the hell expected them to win this game? I mean, when you see Christopher Sanchez is on the mound, when you see, as the game just ended right now, when you see Christopher Sanchez is on the mound for the Phillies and Kodai Senga going on regular rest, to me, I thought this was going to be a no doubt Phillies win. Unfortunately, I thought it was going to be a no doubt Phillies win. But you know what? For once, I could sit here and say, I'm proud of this offense. I am so proud of this offense. 11 for 19 with runners in scoring position. Unheard of. And you know what I'm proud of the most with this offense? I'm proud of the fact that this team went down 3-0. And the reason why I'm hyping this up, and it's sad that I have to in a way, because it's like this should be something they've done a couple times this year. But the problem is, more times than not, they roll over and die the second that they start trailing in ball games. And you know what they did tonight that was different? They didn't roll over and die, because that first inning for Senga was ugly. Allows the run early after the triple by Trey Turner. Getting into trouble in the second inning. Walking Marshall, allowing a single to Kepler. The third inning, walking Schwarber, allows a single to Harper. And then Alec Boehm gets a single. Marsh gets a double. But they go down 3-0. And then Senga had trouble in the fourth. But the Mets respond in the bottom of the fourth inning. Juan Soto starts the inning with a single. Marte hits into a double play, and I lost my damn mind. But a 2-out rally for once from this team. Alonso gets a single, which Pete did not have a great game outside of this, but he did start the rally. I guess you got to give him credit there. And thank goodness for Christopher Sanchez being a complete moron and getting, you could tell he was so rattled after this. He allows that balk, and then a wild pitch moves Pete over the third base. Mark Vientos, who looks like he is locked in more than we have seen throughout his career since outside of last year, of course. He looks like last year's Mark Vientos, though. And like we talked about on the podcast, if you're going to get last year's Mark Vientos going forward, that changes the dynamic of this offense, because this team has been missing Mark Vientos being this type of player. Nimmo hits a single. Taylor walks. Taylor, by the way, again, another good game, following up what he had to be, in my opinion, his best series of the season in Atlanta. Let's see if he builds on that. McNeil ties the game up then at 3. And then you have the stupid delay in the 5th inning. I have never seen such a softer player in my life than Alec Boehm. He's really whining about whatever it was, the microphones out in center field. Come on. We had a 14-minute delay. I should have been starting this 14 minutes ago. I should have been wrapped up right about now. We're close to wrapping this post-game up. But instead, we had that stupid delay because he can't just accept he grounded into a double play. What a loser he is. What a freaking loser. Then the bottom of the fifth, Mark Vientos again. 2 guys on, you get 2 walks. I cannot believe Soto did not get picked off there. Thank you to Bryson Stott dropping the ball. And then Vientos gets another double to make it 4-3. In the bottom of the sixth, Taylor leadoff double. Terrence hits a double to make it 5-3. Can you believe he got a clutch hit? And then David Robertson comes in, walks Soto. Marte gets a single to make it 6-3. And then they just poured it on. Jordan Romano stinks. So you should be annihilating him, and they did. He hits Vientos. Nimmo walks. Taylor gets a single. McNeil gets a sac fly, and then Luis Terrence gets a home run to make it a 10-4, blowing this game out of proportion. Joe Ross can't find the zone, hitting batters, walking Beatty. Taylor with another big hit. McNeil gets a single. Terrence with a single. 13-3. Stanek doesn't allow a run. It's a Christmas miracle. But, the thing I've said about Stanek time and time again, for whatever reason with him, he is completely fine in blowouts. Doesn't allow runs in blowouts. But when he has to come into a somewhat closer game or keep the game close type of situation, he shits the bed every time. All I could say is I'm very happy that the offense performed this way. I'm very happy that we've seen more offensive performances like this, but it does not mean anything when, like we said on the podcast, you are going to lose games. And that's why what matters now is what you do the next 2 games. Because if you go out there and lay an egg offensively in the next 2 games against Jesus Luzardo and Taijuan Walker, then you erase all of the good from this baseball game. Because we've seen this time and time again. It's what we've talked about all season long. It's what we talked about on the podcast earlier this afternoon. They will have these big wins. They'll find a way to score 10-plus runs. And then what do they do the rest of the series? Virtually nothing offensively. Like we saw in that Brave series. Both Brave series, to be honest with you. Like we saw against Seattle a little bit, but they, I guess, had 7 runs in that last game, but could have been a bit better. Could have been a little more clean the way the 7 runs happened. Saw it against San Francisco. They had that one game where they had all those runs, and that didn't matter. So what matters is how you follow this up. And now you beat Christopher Sanchez, who I was the most worried about facing going into this. And you not only did that, you made him pissed off. The way that he was pissed in the dugout was beautiful. But now I got to see it again. I got to see it the next 2 games. I'm not asking you to put up 13 runs every game. That's unrealistic. But I want those clutch hits. The thing that I want the most is what I saw tonight, which was the ability to actually fight back in a baseball game for once, which is, again, something they have not done enough of this year. Every time they roll over and die. So show me you have this type of fight. Show me you could do this in a game where maybe you're down in the 8th or 9th inning. Hopefully you're actually scoring, though, a little bit more. And you get the clutch hit late in the game. Maybe it's like a 5-3 win or a 5-4 win instead. Show me that. That's what I want to see. And the biggest positive, honestly, the biggest positive for me was Ryan Helsley giving you a good inning. Ryan Helsley giving a good inning was the biggest positive because they were talking about it on the broadcast and it was obvious. He was tipping his pitches. It seems like that's corrected, to be determined. We have to see how he does in his next few outings. But I thought that was the biggest positive because I think that's something that you could ask for to build on realistically. Now, the concern, Kodai Senga was not good today. Kodai Senga had another horrible outing where the pitch count's going up way too much, way too early, allowing too many runs, allowing too many walks, nibbling the zone. So that's my concern from this game, though. is how Kodai Senga looked, which is what's again, I don't know where you go from here though with that. And that's why I've been begging for them to call up Sprout or Tong, even at this rate, since apparently he's shooting up the rankings. I want someone that could give the extra rest because I don't know how much that played a factor in today's start. I'd imagine it played some factor. But at the same time, I also want to see someone because I look at what Noah McLean has done for this rotation. And I'm not saying that Sprout or Tong are going to replicate that exactly. It is really difficult to replicate what McLean has done thus far. But I'd like to at least see it because Sang is still not giving you the volume you need. Minaya, we'll see tomorrow, but he has not been giving enough volume either. That's the only other concern I do have is now you have Sean Minaya going who hits a wall at the 70 pitch count, and you used a lot of relievers today. The good thing was Jose Castillo bailed you out big time in this game, giving you an inning, which credit to him as well, because I had no faith with him coming in. But Alec Boehm decided the wine while he was out there, and he ends up just getting through it. So I'm very happy with what he did today. And this bullpen in general, finally, it is about time. Ever since they acquired this super pen that we all were talking about and we all heard about, finally they give you perfection outside of one walk by Stanek in the ninth inning, which, of course, it would be him to ruin that. But you got near perfection, no hits, no runs, one walk. Finally, you get something from this bullpen that's worth looking at and saying, okay, great. But this is another thing where you have to build on it because Helsley's got to go out there and do that again. Can't tip his pitches. But definitely encouraging there. The only thing that I could sit here and say, too, is it only makes it more frustrating that they couldn't beat the freaking Nationals. Because you beat the Nationals in even just one more of those games, you're sitting 5 back in the division instead of 6 after tonight. And on top of that, you should have been able to beat that pitching staff if you're beating Christopher Sanchez, who they were talking about on the broadcast, and rightfully so, that he might be the runner-up or top 3 in Cy Young voting, up there with Paul Skeens this year, with how good he's been. But they couldn't hit off of, and then even the Atlantis, I mean, they couldn't hit off Bryce Elder. That's the part that's just so frustrating to me. But you're going to face good pitching in the playoffs, I guess, so, which they haven't hit good pitching too much this year. So again, that's something I got to see more of, and I'm not sitting here telling you that the season's saved and that, World Series back on. I got to see more of this type of efforts to believe it. But this was the most encouraging performance that we have seen thus far from this team in a very long time. That I will say. Because you guys know me, even in these blowout wins, I'm never here waving the pom-poms going this crazy. Or going crazy in general. But for right now, I could sit here and at least feel good about this. But again, you got to replicate this the next 2 games. Otherwise, it does not matter. Not fully replicate. Again, you're not going to score 13 runs every game. But you got to give me good performances these next few games. And we'll see if they do that. And this is the point. Yeah, you can't take your foot off the gas. Thank God is right. Senga just did barely enough. Yes, he wasn't great, but he could have blown up even more in the third and fourth, kept them at 3 runs. If you want to look at that, yes, you could look at that, but I can't sit here and look at that as a positive, only because this guy's expected to be the ace of the staff or one of your premier frontline starters that you are going to count on in a playoff game. And if he's going to give you that kind of start in a playoff game, you have big problems. And it's August. Like, I can't sit here. If it was April, May, I'd sit here and be like, yeah, I could credit him for that. That I would sit here and agree with. But I can't sit here in August and be like, late August nonetheless, going into Labor Day and be like, I give him credit for getting out of a jam, which again, it's good that he did, but I can't sit here and, hype it up too much when you need consistency from him for October. And now is the time for him to start to heat up. And we just have not seen it enough. And listen, I get it. I'm not sitting here saying it erases it. But all I could sit here and say as well is you go on a hot stretch down the run here. Then you could erase what they did. And I'm not telling you this is the game that's going to erase it. I am hoping we look back on it and say, this is the game where it turned around. I really hope so. But I'm not sitting here telling you it's going to be that. And I'm with you. I'm not sitting here and saying World Series back on. They're not getting first rounded or second rounded. I'm not all of a sudden changing my opinion on the drop of a dime here. But this was the most encouraging sign of life from this team this season thus far. But again, you have to build on it like you're saying, or it doesn't matter. But I'm going to wrap things up here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live. And I'll see you guys in the next one.